as Sonaka continued, there is no one who knows more than the Lord himself. No one is more worshipable or more mature a yogi than he. He is therefore the master of the Vedas. And to hear about him always is the actual pleasure of the senses. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that no one can be equal to or greater than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is confirmed in the Vedas also. Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman. He is the supreme living entity and is supplying the necessities of all other living entities. Thus, all other living entities, both Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva, are subordinate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The same concept is confirmed here. Nahi asya varshmana pumsam. Amongst the living entities, no one can surpass the Supreme Person because no one is richer, more famous, stronger, more beautiful, wiser, or more renounced than he. These qualifications make him the Supreme Godhead, the cause of all causes. Yogis are very proud of performing wonderful feats, but no one can compare to the Supreme Lord. I'm sorry. Second. But no one can compare to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyone who is associated with the Supreme Lord is accepted as a first-class yogi. Devotees may not be as powerful as the Supreme Lord, but by constant association with the Lord, they become as good as the Lord himself. Sometimes the devotees act more powerfully than the Lord. Of course, that is the Lord's concession. Also used here is the word varimana, varinna, varinna, meaning the most worshipful of all yogis. To hear from him is the real pleasure of the senses. Therefore, he is known as Govinda, for by his words, by his teachings, by his instruction, by everything connected with him, he enlivens the senses. Whatever he instructs is from the transcendental platform, and his instructions, being absolute, are non-different from him. Hearing from Krishna or his expansion or plenary expansion like Kapila is very pleasing to the senses. Bhagavad Gita can be read or heard many times, but because it gives great pleasure, the more one reads Bhagavad Gita, the more he gets the enlightenment. That is the nature of the transcendental message. Similarly, we find that transcendental happiness in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The more we hear and chant the glories of the Lord, the more we become happy. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so the more we hear and chant the glories of the Lord, the more we become happy. So this is the gospel truth. It's a fact that hearing about the pastimes of the Lord gives great joy and self-satisfaction. Why? Because we're hearing the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, which are always auspicious and full of good, let's say, information that helps us become Krishna conscious. This is real Shastra. Real Shastra is uplifting. It is full of knowledge and realization of what is the real purpose of life. The real purpose of life, obviously, is to go back to Godhead. So the information we get in Srimad Bhagavatam cannot be had in any other scripture in the world. Yes, there are things in the Bible, maybe in the Quran also, but whatever is being said in the Bhagavad Gita, and especially with the purports of Srila Prabhupada, illuminates the devotee with knowledge, remembrance, and uh, the desire to hear more and more. This enthusiasm to regularly hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is the uh, life of the devotee. And it says here, anyone who is associated with the Supreme Lord is accepted as a first-class yogi. Devotees may not be as powerful as the Supreme Lord, but by constant association with the Lord, they become as good as the Lord himself. Sometimes the devotees act even more powerfully than the Lord. Of course, that is the Lord's concession. That means that they're not really more powerful than the Lord, but the Lord wants them to be glorified. So he gives them the opportunity to act even more powerfully, seemingly even more powerfully than the Lord himself. Because the Lord wants to see his glory, devotees glorified. Anyone who is associated with the Supreme Lord is accepted as a first-class yogi. Devotees may not be as powerful as the Supreme Lord, but by constant association with the Lord, they become as good as the Lord himself. Sometimes the devotees act even more powerfully than the Lord. Of course, that is the Lord's concession. Okay, so that is Krishna's mercy. He wants to see his devotees glorified. And sometimes he even helps the devotee do things that seem impossible. But everything is possible when we are surrendered to Krishna. So it says here, Eko bahunam yo vidati kaman. Krishna is the supreme living entity and is supplying the necessities of all other living entities. That's the definition of God. He doesn't need anyone to supply him, but on the contrary, he supplies everyone with their necessities. So that's like the definition of God. It says here, Eko bahunam yo vidati kaman. He's the supreme living entity and is supplying the necessities of all other living entities. Thus, all other living entities, both Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva, are subordinate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The same concept is confirmed here. Nahi yasya varsamana pumsam. Amongst the living entities, no one can surpass the Supreme Person because no one is richer, more famous, stronger, more beautiful, wiser, or more renounced than he. These qualifications make him the Supreme Godhead, the cause of all causes. Yogis are very proud of performing wonderful feats, but no one can compare to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, If someone never reads the Shastras, especially Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, he won't understand this. He or she won't understand this. They'll think that, oh, I am the most powerful person. I am the most beautiful person. I am the most famous person. I'm the most knowledgeable person. Like that, they'll develop these false egos instead of developing the uh, more and more humility and and dedication to Krishna. They develop this false ego and assume so many things about themselves that is not true, that is false. So we should be careful of associating with people who are so puffed up. They're not actually devotees, they're actually demoniac because they think they can control the universe. They don't need the association of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here it says that no one can surpass the Supreme Person because no one is richer, more famous, stronger, or more beautiful, wiser, or more renounced than he. Well, these are qualifications that Krishna has that no one else can emulate. His unique qualities. Once you understand the unique qualities of the Lord, you begin to become more humble. And this is the whole, let's say, purpose of reading the Shastra. The reading the Shastras, you realize that there is someone greater than yourself. And that's the beginning of spiritual life. Because without reading the Shastras, many people will be, let's say, illusioned and think that they are the best person in the whole universe. But the best person in the whole universe is Krishna, it's not any of us. Therefore, by reading the Shastra, we become more and more humble and meek and more and more Krishna conscious because we realize that there's someone greater than ourselves. That's the beginning and the end of spiritual knowledge. No one is equal to or greater than Krishna. Everyone else is subordinate to Krishna. That's why it says here, Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kamam. He is the supreme living entity and is supplying the necessities of all other living entities. Thus, all other living entities, both Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva, are subordinate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The same concept is confirmed here. Nahi ashivarsmana pumsam. Amongst the living entities, no one can surpass the Supreme Person because no one is richer, more famous, stronger, more beautiful, wiser, or more renounced than he. These qualifications make him the supreme Godhead, the cause of all causes. Yogis are very proud of performing wonderful feats, but no one can compare to the supreme personality of Godhead. So in the history, in the Vedic history, there are many examples of people who thought they were as great as or greater than the Lords, but they were all defeated by Krishna. Usually a person who thinks he's equal to or greater than the Lord is considered to be a demon. And what do demons do? They try and conquer everybody else and give them trouble. But a devotee never gives trouble to Krishna and never considers himself equal to Krishna or greater than Krishna. They all are very satisfied being completely surrendered to the Lord. This is real knowledge. And when a person desires to surrender themselves to the Lord and follow the Lord's instructions, now they become educated. If someone is puffed up, full of false ego, it's very difficult for them to be educated because they don't think anyone is greater than they are. This is the false ego that cheats someone out of the possibility of becoming Krishna conscious. That's why it says here, uh, thus all other living entities, both Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva, are subordinate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. The same concept is confirmed here. Nahi asya varsmana pumsam. Amongst the living entities, no one can surpass the Supreme Person because no one is richer, more famous, stronger, more beautiful, wiser, or more renounced than he. These qualifications make him, the Supreme Godhead, the cause of all causes. Yogis are very proud of performing wonderful feats, but no one can compare to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there are, football players, there are baseball players, there are tennis players, there are so many different sportsmen, and there are also great scholars. There are also powerful warriors. No one, no matter how great they are equal to Krishna. That's something that we should be convinced of. If we begin to uh, just read scripture but not really understand it, then we never come to this conclusion. Uh, Krishna is everything for me. He is the supreme personality of Godhead. No one is equal to him. No one is greater than him. So the usually we see the demons. They all believe that Krishna is maybe just a little bit better than them. But if they do some more exercise, or if they do some more tapasya, they'll be greater even than Krishna, and they'll be worshipped like God. This is what there are many examples of this. One big example was Hitler. He became, in his own estimation, so powerful that he was like a god, and the the people, the Germans, they just about worshipped him, and they would listen to his lectures, his speeches, and he was a charismatic speaker, and but always reaffirming the superiority of the German race. In other words, just talking about the body, not about anything spiritual. So, and he was not a spiritual man at all. Um, he I don't think he really mentioned God too much. That'd be interesting. Why don't you look this up? Did Hitler ever talk about God? Uh, it's interesting to hear that. Obviously, he was not a religious man, but he was a charismatic speaker. I mean, he could speak with a lot of passion. And
Indeed,
yeah, go
it
ahead.
is yes, Adolf Hitler did speak about God and religion in various speeches and writings, although his views were complex and often contradictory. In public, Hitler frequently invoked God or divine providence, portraying his actions and the Nazi movement as aligned with the higher power. For example, Mein Kampf, he,
Mein Kampf.
Mein Kampf, he referred to God as the creator of the universe and claimed that he was doing God's will by fighting for the Aryan race. However, privately, Hitler's views on religion were more skeptical, especially towards organized Christianity. He criticized both the Catholic Church and Protestantism for their perceived weakness and compromise. Although he was raised Catholic, Hitler did not practice the faith actively and expressed disdain for its teaching, especially the doctrine of compassion. Hitler's regime promoted what is often referred to as positive Christianity, a vague, state controlled version of Christianity stripped of its Jewish roots and adjusted to fit Nazi ideology. He also spoke positively about the idea of God or providence, but this was often in a way that suited his political aims rather than out of personal conviction in traditional religious teachings. In sum, Hitler used religious language to his advantage, but his true beliefs about God and religion were much more ambiguous and opportunistic than consistent.
There you go.
It also said that he's, he saw Aryans race as supremacy. Aryan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, the Aryan he is referring to the
All-
Aryan society.
All body, all based on the body, not on the soul. Did he ever talk about the soul? Does it say he talked about the soul?
No, it's only God.
Yeah. Well, they talk about God, but they don't follow God's instruction. That's the problem. Any man who's going to kill masses of people cannot really be God conscious. They're demon. And who builds up the false ego of people. I mean, his point was that the Aryan race was superior to all the races. That's not God consciousness. That's based on bodily identification. So he was always talking about the Aryan race. And let's read a little bit about the Aryan race. What did he say about that?
I read it like Aryan race.
Huh? Okay.
I read it like Aryan race.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the same. We call it Aryan. Pronunciation. Yeah.
Okay.
So what did he say about the Aryan race or Aryan race? Aryan.
Mhm. So he emphasized the so-called Aryan race in his ideology, particularly in his book Mein Kampf,
Mein Kampf.
Mein Kampf, and numerous speeches. For Hitler, the Aryan race represented a supposed master race that he believed to be superior to others.
Right.
He claimed that Aryans, particularly Germans, were the bearers of civilization and culture, endowed with superior intelligence, creativity, and strength. Hitler's ideas about the Aryan race were deeply intertwined with his beliefs in racial hierarchy and social Darwinism. He believed that human history was defined.
Social Darwinism. Okay, it's a very interesting phrase. Social Darwinism. That means, well, first of all, Darwin is nonsense. His whole theory of the origin of species is completely wrong. And when he says social Darwinism, that means socialistic Darwinism. The idea that everyone is equal.
No, that's not. I don't think so.
No? Okay, go ahead.
Because I think he's referring to the fact because Darwinism also amplifies this survival of the fittest.
Mm-hmm.
So he's basically, I think he used that. So he believed that human history was defined by a struggle for survival between races, and that the Aryan race had a divine or natural right to dominate. He often spoke of preserving the racial purity of Aryans, asserting that mixing with other races, particularly Jews, would lead to the degeneration and destruction of civilization.
Okay.
In his racial ideology, Aryans were viewed as the pinnacle of human evolution, destined to rule over all other races. These are Jews, Slavs, Romani people, and other groups as racially inferior or degenerate and sought to eliminate or subjugate them. Hitler linked the survival and prosperity of the Aryan race with the success of Germany, equating the future of German nation with the purity and strength of the Aryan population. These beliefs fueled the Nazi policies of racial segregation, eugenics, and ultimately the Holocaust, in which millions of Jews and other groups deemed racially inferior were systematically exterminated.
Eugenics means that you separate the more, let's say, basically, it means separating people that have blue eyes, they're tall, they have blonde hair, and other people that don't have those qualities, they should be killed. Uh, and so right away they started killing people that had physical, let's say, problems. You know, they were and or they were like have mental problems and things like that. They actually were killing them to so that they would not reproduce and create more people with those type of uh, problems. And they wanted to make a pure race. So, but it's all based on the body, and it was not actually uh, the truth. I mean, even people that have physical uh, deformations or physical problems, they can still be very productive in society. One of those people is Helen. What's her name?
Keller.
Helen Keller. Yeah, she could not. I don't think she could hear, or she was blind also. But she became a very, very prominent person who was very intelligent. Uh, we can hear about her in a few minutes. So uh, the whole premises of this eugenics. That means that you want to cull or separate all the people who have mental or physical problems and kill them, basically, and just and not let them reproduce, and so that you can get a superior race of people. And because of that, the whole idea about killing people in order that they can't reproduce, or at least uh, you know um, making them medically not able to reproduce, was practiced by not only by the Nazis, but also it actually started in the United States. In the United States, the whole idea of eugenics, separating out all inferior persons and basically not letting them reproduce, and trying to create a superior race of people. So why don't you look up,
Helen.
yeah, Helen Keller.
Yeah, Helen Keller was a pioneering American author, educator, and disability rights advocate who overcame the challenges of being both deaf and blind.
Deaf and blind. Yeah.
Despite these obstacles, she became one of the most famous and inspirational figures of the 20th century. Her life story is a testament to the human perseverance, resilience,
Perseverance. Yeah, go ahead.
and the power of education. Key aspects of Helen Keller's life: childhood and early life. Helen Keller was born in Tuscumbia, Alabama in 1880. At 19 months old, she lost her sight and hearing due to an illness, possibly scarlet fever or meningitis. Isolated from the world due to her inability to see or hear, she struggled to communicate, became frustrated. Her breakthrough came when Annie Sullivan, a young teacher from Perkins School of the Blind, began working with her when Keller was 7 years old. Annie Sullivan and education. Annie Sullivan used innovative methods to teach Keller how to communicate, starting with finger, finger spelling words into her hands. The iconic moment of Keller's learning was when she understood that the water flowing over her hand corresponded to the word water. Under Sullivan's guidance, Keller quickly learned to read Braille and to speak, eventually master.
Braille is letters that are, let's say, you can physically feel those letters. It's not like here; it's all flat.
Raised dots.
Yeah.
It's a combination of dots.
Yes.
Something for the blind.
Yes.
Eventually mastering several languages.
Several languages.
Yeah. Academic achievements. Helen Keller became the first deaf-blind person to earn a bachelor degree of arts, graduating from Radcliffe College in 1904. This was an extraordinary achievement, especially at a time when access to education for people with disabilities was extremely limited. Advocacy and activism. Keller became a powerful advocate for people with disabilities, campaigning for better education and access. She also worked on behalf of the social and political causes, including women's suffrage, labor rights, and
Suffrage means their right to vote.
Mhm. And pacifism. What is pacifism?
They're against war,
Oh,
against violence.
She was a founding member of the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, and advocated for progressive causes, including socialism. Her political views, which sometimes contrasted with her inspirational image, revealed her deeply held beliefs about the social justice. Writing and public speaking. Helen Keller authored numerous books and essays, the most famous being her autobiography, The Story of My Life. She also traveled widely, giving speeches about her experiences and advocating for disability rights, often with the help of interpreters.
Yes. How's she going to speak when she can't hear or see? Right?
Yeah, or speak.
Yeah. Or speak. Yeah. She was an extraordinary person. Go ahead.
Her works and speeches emphasize the value of education, communication, and the potential within every individual to overcome
Overcome?
challenges.
Yeah.
Legacy. Keller's life had a profound impact on the disability rights movement and public perceptions of disability.
Disability. That means that you might be blind, you might be crippled, you have this, you don't have a body that functions normally. They're called disabilities. Okay.
And she proved that people with disabilities could lead rich, fulfilling lives and contribute meaningfully to society. Her story continues to inspire people around the world, and she remains a symbol of courage, determination, and the transformative power of education. Helen Keller's, Helen Keller's remarkable achievements and her lifelong dedication to advocacy have made her a lasting figure in history, representing resilience in the face of profound adversity.
Advocacy is a good word. It means that you try and educate society, or you try and uh, help people understand the misery of other people, you know, in the sense that you try and eliminate people's, let's call it, ignorance. And then you look up the definition of
And
advocacy.
you're fighting for a cause, right?
Yeah.
There's public support for or recommendation of a particular cause or policy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she was trying to prove that, look, even though a person has these physical, let's say, problems, and they should not be excluded from society. So the whole idea of the eugenics was, okay, let's take all the people who have physical problems and mental problems. Let's just kill them so that they don't, or let's make them sterile so they can't reproduce. So in other words, they cull, cull, I think the way you pronounce it. People, they separate the people, right? But basically, the extreme example of it was the Nazis. They were separating the Jews, the gypsies, and other people, and killing them, so that they would eliminate all races that they thought were inferior.
Yeah, the word eugenics means good genes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Good genes.
good genes and bad
Bad
genes.
genes.
So Helen Keller, I mean, she she had all the worst genes, but she turned out to be a very wonderful person.
Yeah,
She was not a pure devotee, but she proved that even though she couldn't hear, she couldn't see, she still was able to communicate. She wrote many books also.
well, that's why I think probably particularly in US and maybe Europe inspired by that, but there's so much emphasis on supporting everywhere, like the disabled people, right? Whether it is
disabled people.
Yeah, throughout. I mean, in India, you don't see it all.
Well, you see disabled people in the streets.
Yeah, but there's no support in the system.
Yeah.
Whether it is roads, whether it is, in the airports or anywhere, like here, everywhere, it's designed first for them, actually, somewhat. Buses, transportation, even in the schooling and everywhere. But there in India, hardly you see any
help for those people. Jai Hind. Okay, well, I'm sure they do things now to help the disabled in India to a certain extent.
Question number in this one, I may read the Aryan also, Aryan or Aryan, they say it comes from the root word, Sanskrit root word Arya.
Civilized.
Arya civilization. Somehow they got inspired to the Vedas, to the Aryan race or something like that. Misinterpreted. Is there a connection to Vedas? Why they thought their race is superior? Is there a connection with Vedas?
Yeah, they misappropriated that word and gave a different definition to it. That's a Sanskrit word, Arya. Okay, and it means a society whose goal is to help everyone go back to Godhead. That was the original meaning of Aryan, right? And they take it and they give different definition to that word. They got that word from Sanskrit.
Yeah,
It's a Sanskrit word. And that's not the meaning of Aryan, to make a super race and eliminate the others. And Aryan people are people who practice Krishna consciousness. That the whole society is based on helping people go back to Godhead. And they completely, what you call, bastardized that word and made it something that it wasn't.
So their ancestors had a piece of literature from Vedas.
They take something from the Vedas. Yeah, they took it from the Vedas. They, and they gave their own definition to it. Why? Why did they do that? Because they didn't have a guru.
Yeah, right.
They didn't. That's what happens when you don't have a guru. You can take something that's wonderful and make it look horrible. It's unfortunate.
Your question?
Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
Here it also says eugenicists believe that people inherited mental illness, poverty, and criminal tendencies, and that these traits could be bred out of the population.
That means bred out, meaning you take them and you kill them, or you stop them from breeding. You
Breeding
sterilize them.
The question I had, Maharaj, the people inherited mental illness, poverty, and criminal tendencies. So, in a way, if you are right out of birth, right, you have
Congenital
yeah,
diseases or something like that.
yeah. What I'm saying is like it could be kind of related to karma theory because if you most of the times like not all the time, but if you have some mental illness or some illness, when you give birth, mental or physical illness, you can pass some of those illnesses like into your next generation, and that could be based on karma theory. Who which soul gets that is based on their karma, but in a way that is true, right, Maharaj?
What is true?
Right, you can pass on like if you have some illnesses, you can pass on to your next generation.
Yeah. Yes.
So that is true. Like the belief is true. I mean, that doesn't mean you should kill them or segregate them. But in a way, you can pass on that to your next generation. Some of the things.
Yes. That's a fact. But in the case of Helen, what's her name? Keller. She was able to be very, let's say, exceptional in her ability to communicate. She wrote books. She was giving lectures, even though she couldn't speak or hear. Say. So she was able to overcome her handicap. So that doesn't mean we should, kill people.
Yeah, definitely not.
Who are severely, let's say, handicapped. They still can be positive persons in society. Not everyone, but uh, now
I think in Bhagavatam, a couple of weeks ago, there was a specific verse where it talked about the soul attracting soul. That's why we have to chant for conceiving a child, because not the bodily genes is not the fundamental reason. The soul, the soul with the right consciousness, if you attract into the womb, then automatically, like for example, Helen Keller's example, even though physically she was limited because of her consciousness,
That is true.
right? Like the soul, probably that she.
why don't you look up and see if she was religious?
Well, when do people turn into fanatics? Is it that's also so like faith is the
They turn into what? Fanatics?
fanatics? Is it like
They want to
too
kill
much deep-
people and
too much deep faith, or is it like that, or misdirect faith? But
no,
faith is
it's ignorant. It's ignorant. Now look, it is difficult when you have to deal with a person who has a congenital, let's say, disease or congenital disfiguration. You have to take care of them the rest of your life, right? Now, some people will not put them in an institution; they'll take care of them themselves, right? Or other people, they'll, if they're too much, I can't handle this. The person ends up in some kind of institution where they're being taken care of. So it is a great stress on a person's life. And, a child is born and they have congenital disease, and it affects their mind, it affects their body, and they need all kinds of attention because they won't be able to function independently, and that means it's a lifelong, let's say, responsibility to take care of that person. Most people will put them into some type of a program of the state, and they don't want to deal with it. It's too stressful for them. It's sometimes there are people, even though they're adults, you have to change their diaper. You have to do everything for them. They can't function on their own, or they have this mental problem, and they can have big, let's say, changes of consciousness. Sometimes they become violent, and sometimes they start screaming and or crying, and it's very hard for someone to deal with a person like that for the rest of their life. So they just put them into these institutions where they take care of people who have congenital problems. Okay, so uh, why does this happen? That's the question. Why does a white woman has two kids? One kid is perfectly all right. The other kid has severe problems. Right? It's and you. I mean, there even amongst devotees, there are people like that. One child is just perfect, and the other child has severe, physical and mental problems. Well, it's basically uh, due to some kind of mistakes that are being done in a person's life, uh, and it's their karma. Now, but okay, the good people will not get rid of that person, like put them into an institution, just wipe their hands, say, I'm not going to have anything to do with this person in my life. They'll take the responsibility of protecting that person the rest of their life. But that's a big responsibility. There are some devotees in our congregation who have kids who are mentally and sometimes physically, incapacitated, and they're still taking care of them. I think we have at least 5 or 6 kids like that in our congregation. Why does it happen? I don't know. You know, something to do with obviously the child uh, is conceived by, first of all, by the thoughts of the parents when they have copulation. The quality of the child will depend on the consciousness of the mother and father. They try and have a child. That's why before man and woman want to have a child, Prabhupada recommended they should chant 50 rounds before they try and conceive a child to purify their consciousness so that they're you have the modes of material nature. So if you engage in trying to reproduce a child and you're in the mode of rajas or passion, there's a good chance the child will be a very passionate child. Or if you're in the mode of ignorance when you're trying to reproduce a child, then the child will be born in the mode of ignorance. So everything depends on the consciousness of the father and mother. And there's a million different types of possibilities. The mother might be spiritually inclined, and the father might be materially inclined. So then the child gets influenced by that, right? So it's very important for people to become Krishna conscious. Otherwise, it's better not to have children because so many, let's say, possibilities open up when you're not Krishna conscious. Everything depends on the consciousness of a person. So if people engage in sex life out of just pure lust, then that'll influence the type of child that's put in the womb of the mother. So Krishna is overseeing the placing of a child of a baby in the womb of the mother. So if the mother and the father both are in mode of passion, then the child will be born in mode of passion also. So therefore, there are rules and regulations of how to have children, and that's explained in the Shastra. So it's not that we'll just have a kid. Let's go and party tonight, and then we'll have sex, and then now wife is pregnant, and and then the kid that's born might be might have a congenital disease, and then now they're stuck for a whole lifetime. They have to take care of the kid, and it's based on what consciousness they had at the moment of conception. So there's a science of how to have children. It's explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So if we just ignore these things, then there's so many things can happen that are horrible, and then you're stuck. What are you going to do? So eugenics means, okay, well, we'll take all those type of children and just kill them, and we'll cull them, take them out of society and kill them, or put them in an institution and basically make it so they can never have babies, and so all these things are based on lust, and because of lusty desires, all kinds of strange things happen in society. People who are in the mode of goodness, usually they don't get children that are in mode of ignorance or mode of passion. They get children that are in mode of goodness. But the consciousness of a man and a woman at the moment of conception is very important. That's why Prabhupada highly recommended that the husband and wife chant at least 50 rounds before they try and conceive a child. That means 50 rounds. How long would that take? About 5 or 6 hours. Right? And husband and wife chant together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Okay, so there's the right way and there's the wrong way. Most people do the wrong way because they have no education. Even though they have PhDs, they're still not educated. And there's a right way when you get educated. And the only way you can really get educated is by reading and we're hearing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Everything is explained in those two books. Everything. How to have good children, how to have a good marriage, how to be, let's say, a person who can control their mind and their senses. Everything is explained in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, if you really want to give education to a child, they should first learn that they have an eternal soul. That's number one thing. That you don't actually die; you just simply change your body, but you have an eternal soul, and the soul of every living entity comes from Krishna. So Krishna is the ultimate father of all living entities. See? So that should be the first thing that a child should learn. It's not that, oh, my father is this and your father is that. Uh, then you have prejudices that develop. based on, this is my father, your father is different. No, we all have the same father, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now we have a connection with everybody, because we're all connected to Krishna. And so, if you say no, well, this one is a Jew, and that one is a black guy, and that one is this, and this one is that. So then, obviously, you create all this prejudice, and like when I was going to school in the beginning, and I actually thought that Armenians were the smartest people in the world. But after some time, I realized it wasn't true. And then my great auntie, she used to believe that Jesus was an Armenian. And one day I had told her, no, he was born a Jew. She said, no, that's not true. So, there's a lot of misconceptions in life, let's put it like that. So it's very important to get to get the right knowledge through the Shastras. Okay, Haribol.
Yeah, I just wanted to close that. Helen Keller was indeed big time faith into Christianity.
Right. Okay.
In fact, her faith was an important aspect of her life and provided her with a strong sense of hope and purpose despite the challenges she faced.
Yeah, you see, a person who's deaf and basically dumb. Deaf and dumb means they can't hear, they can't see, they can't talk, right? But yet she was able to communicate, write books, and so forth. So when you have all those severe, let's say, limitations, you get very, obviously people are going to become very, very let's say, discouraged in life. But she surpassed all that by her faith in God and the help she got from certain persons that took the time and effort to educate her. So that means that she was not a useless human being. Because there were people that spent time to help her overcome her limitations. So that's like a miracle. Okay. So any question?
She was deaf and blind, but she would speak.
She could speak.
Oh, okay.
So she couldn't hear. So somebody, or she couldn't see, but she was able to hear.
What?
So she was able to speak. Sorry, she was able to speak.
Yeah.
So two senses.
Yeah, but a person who's deaf and blind, when they speak, it doesn't sound like a normal person speaking, But yeah,
Because they cannot perceive the world the same way, right? Because they can't hear or speak.
But they can communicate also by writing.
Yeah, I mean, imagine the teacher put so much
Effort.
to educate such a person
Yeah.
and to inspire them to do such great things.
Yeah.
And she was there throughout.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, that's the good role model teachers.
Yeah.
And it's alone.
Well, you should thank teachers who teach only kids with what do you call it? That need special help.
Yeah, special needs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy, to handle, a classroom of kids that need special help.
Yeah.
It can actually, discourage a person. But yet they're trained teachers to educate kids with what do you call it? What's the right word? Is physical. Okay, let's just say physical needs, physical and mental needs.
Yeah.
You have to have a lot of training to be able to do that. Okay.
One side, Maharaj, the teacher, like that lady, she was helping her. Other side, this eugenics, like that, keep killing like people, like this. Two sides
Yeah, one side is
helping.
this person can be, let's say, can be a good person in society. The other is let's just get rid of them, you know, not waste any money, not waste any time, not waste any one's life trying to help them. So
So my question is, eugenics, this happened is because of the political reasons, or because at human level, or the journal people don't think like this. Like, but they took this decision in past, like because of the political reasons, or
well, it started by this one man, I forget what his name is, and it was really picked up in the United States first. It started by a Brit, I think it was a British guy, but then it was practiced in the United States. And it began with trying to stop Black people from having kids.
Oh,
You know, they the white people, they thought Black people are monkeys, so they shouldn't reproduce. So yeah, I mean, you can look it up. I don't, you know, how eugenics began, but it was definitely started by this one man who, I think, a British guy, and then it became popular in the United States. And then the Nazis picked it up from the United the eugenics people in the United States, and they took it to a higher level. And just like the Nazis, they used the word I mean, they used the symbol of the swastika that was a Vedic symbol, right? And they gave it a different meaning. You know? And that all of these things happen because the people don't have a spiritual master, a bona fide spiritual master. So they'll take something that's good and turn it into something that's bad. And that's what the Nazis did. You know, they took the swastika and made it a symbol of evil rather than what it actually is. What do you see? What do you see there?
it says eugenics, a movement aimed at improving the genetic quality of human population, began in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Its origin can be traced to the work of Sir Francis Galton, a British scientist and cousin of Charles Darwin.
so he's a cousin of Charles Darwin. There's some eugenics going on there.
Yeah.
In this family.
We might have taken from that and
Yeah.
Galton coined the term eugenics in 1883, drawing inspiration from Darwin's theory of evolution and the idea of natural selection. He believed that the human race could be improved by encouraging he believed that the human race could be improved by encouraging the reproduction of individuals with desirable traits and discouraging or preventing those with undesirable traits from reproducing, like a negative eugenics.
Yeah, well, basically killing them or isolating them and making it, yes, sterilizing them so they can't have children.
It's very horrible how they can think and kill.
It's terrible. Yeah, but it's going on. Yeah.
like Krishna Maharaj, not question but comment. Because in India, or even my relatives now say like, oh, why are you reading all these things? You should read about spirituality when you're in your 60s. Right? This is the time to live and raise your kids, do all the things that are material, and then in your 60s, that's when you should read about spirituality. But if you read this today's class, because younger children should know how to live their life according to Shastra, so that they can give birth to
Good children.
good children. And if they don't know that, like after you have kids, of course, you can still help them afterwards by living a Sattvic life. But the younger you are, the earlier you learn all of these, you
Of
can do a
course.
better service to the society.
Yeah, of course. The worst thing is that you have a wanton life, you're not following any of the regulative principles, and then you have a kid, and the kid has, some congenital disease or something like that, and then, like for example, one of my kids, um, she went to see a doctor when she was pregnant. And the doctor said, well, you got sick. You had this virus. So there's 90% chance that the child in your womb will have mental and physical problems. So when she heard that, she was like, really shocked. And then when she told, other devotees about that, the other devotees said, oh, you should definitely have an abortion. And the devotees. And the doctor said it too, right? That you should, get an abortion. So my daughter called me up and she explained, she said, what should I do? I said, well, you're living in Vrindavan. It's the holiest place in the world. And you're not a sinful person. You're a good person. You should just pray to Krishna and just depend on Krishna. Then the baby she had was perfectly okay. But everybody, including, devotees, they tried to convince her to have an abortion. The doctor said definitely you should have an abortion.
What did the doctor say after the trial?
I don't know. I was the only one that said don't do it. Because you're living in Vrindavan. She was in Vrindavan at that time. Those are hard decisions to make.
Very hard. Then one is to hear from Shastra as other examples, but when it comes to your own life,
Yeah.
because the consequences of right
The consequences are you'll have a child that has a congenital disease for the rest of their life, and you have to take care of them. But fortunately, it was her son. Which one was it?
Was it mine?
Mayapur, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And specifically, Maharaj, they have this genetical test that available so that they can detect early and they can recommend abortion.
Right.
For the doctor.
Yeah.
The doctors have this specifically to detect early.
Well,
So and recommend that.
yeah, but you kill your own baby, it's a big decision to make. Anyway, in the case of my daughter, she had a very wonderful little boy, and he's okay, no problem. But everyone told her, to get an abortion, even the devotees.
Having got this much faith on scripture, Maharaj, when it comes to ourselves falling in that situation.
I told her, don't do it. Don't do it. I said, you just depend on Krishna. Because she was living in Vrindavan at that time. I said, you're living in Vrindavan. You just chant Hare Krishna every day and depend on whatever Krishna gives you. But those are hard decisions, right? When the doctor is saying do it, when the devotees are saying do it, also,
It's more confusing.
it's much more difficult. I was the only one that said don't do it. It just depends on Krishna. Haribol. So our lesson today, depend on Krishna. Harivilas. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vidyesha Bhakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nidhyamani Namaste Saraswati Deva Guruvara Vichara Nivishekta Punyavali Paskati Desvitara